Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another iTWire video with top Australian executives. Today I have with me Stacey Squire. He is the ICT Manager at Consolidated Minerals. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
So I thought best to start by asking you to please tell us a bit about Consolidated Minerals and your role there as ICT Manager, and also a bit about what you've done in the past.
Certainly. So Consolidated Minerals is one of the leading manganese producers in the world, supplying, I think, near 20% of global demand for manganese ore. We operate in Australia in one of the remotest areas up in the Pilbara, around 450 k's south of Port Hedland. So it's genuinely a long way from nowhere. So it is a very hot and arid environment. And my role is to manage and maintain and certainly monitor the ICT comms, the delivery of camp services from a technology standpoint and from a camp welfare standpoint, keeping people entertained, and realistically anything that needs to be kept online to support operations.
Sure. Actually, I'll just ask you, I should have mentioned this beforehand, but when you're looking at me, just look at the little lens at the top of your screen, because it looks like you're looking directly then at the viewer. But that's okay, it's all good. I should have said that before.
Up the way.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Oh, yeah, no worries, thanks. So what was your role in the past? Were you working for mining companies before, or have you moved? Is this new for you?
So my role previously, was working in the mining services engineering field at a firm, RCR Tomlinson, and we had a very large network, APAC-wide, around 4,000 employees, and that certainly brought my attention around how you scale out with limited resources in monitoring and maintaining such a vast area of equipment.
Sure. And just a question that just popped into my head: what sort of connectivity are you dealing with? So far north, is it 4G wireless? Have you got satellite? What's the sort of connectivity you have to deal with?
So we're actually well and truly out of any mobile coverage zone in the area of the Pilbara we're at. We're looking at around 200 kilometres worth of mobile, fixed microwave to deliver that connectivity into site. And we're actually piggybacked out of a location called Telfer, which is, again, another 300 k's east, thereabouts, of where we're located. Look, bandwidth up there is a premium. It's very hard to come by.
Sure.
Our fallback is onto satellite, and of which very little bandwidth is available through that as well.
So clearly, whatever solutions you're using have to be able to easily cope with that, non-city bandwidth, as it were.
Yeah, you certainly forget the luxuries of the YouTubes and bits and pieces when everything's at a premium.
So I think you've sort of hinted at it already, but what are some of the challenges in running an IT shop in today's 21st century mining companies, and how traditionally have you solved them? I mean, clearly you mentioned that it's remote and you've got this limited bandwidth, but what are some of the other issues that are typical for mining companies today?
Well, certainly for Consmin, we're not overly resourced with people to watch everything day in, day out. So quite a lean IT operation. The operations are themselves a 24/7 type facility. So realistically, you don't have the luxury of too many opportunities to fail. You are constantly held up with poor weather for the summer months, for the cyclones. You're constantly held up with generally very arid, hot conditions that most equipment is not designed to operate in. And certainly with the age of equipment that we had installed, I think it was commissioned back in 2008, 2009, the equipment is well and truly approaching an age where it is up for a refresh. It is certainly showing its age in its behaviour, and we're keen to avoid false positives on, is the link down, is the link up, is the link not behaving properly. We needed a way of getting, I guess, those metrics away from hearsay and people just telling you blindly the link's down or there's a problem. we needed a way of actually identifying where the problem lay, whether it be fog between a particular microwave tower, whether it be inclement weather from a cyclone, whether it be a bushfire in an area. Certainly, we needed ways to narrow down the causes and work out where the issues could have been.
Sure. Otherwise, before we started recording, you were telling me that the sort of traditional solution for some of these problems is just fly and fix. You fly out
That's
there,
right.
and
That's right. And I mean, ideally, in that environment, it's not an easy place to get to.
Yeah.
We don't have daily flights to the mine site, and the closest proximity is Port Hedland, and so you're usually looking at a 5 or 6 hour drive on top of your flight time, on top of being organised to actually know what you're going to fix when you get there. Yeah. So certainly narrowing down what you're looking for without having to bring a car full of spares certainly makes the trip far more efficient.
Yeah. So what have you chosen?
Ideally, avoid the flight in the first place.
That's it, yeah. Well, by having the correct knowledge of what you need to fix and whether it can be fixed remotely, and you only go, obviously, when it's absolutely no other choice but to go. So so what have you chosen to help you manage all this in a much better way than you were doing it before?
So previous experience with SolarWinds, found SolarWinds provides, if you let it, quite rich feedback about the devices, and certainly allows you to, build a good picture of the health of the entire environment as it stands.
Sure. And so so this was something you were using in your last job, for example, and when you arrived at this one, you thought, hey, we can be using SolarWinds to fix things up here and make them run a lot more smoothly.
Certainly, I thought it'd be stupid not to, given the the lack of resource to actually have legs on the ground to identify the faults, and certainly with a need to have the information at all times, whether you're wanting to have a quick look on a web page from home to see what's the status of the network, is the mine site up, is it down, is a cyclone blowing through, has the site been affected yet? Certainly having that without having to engage mine managers and whatnot, just to see what's going on. Sure. At a glance, it's a very helpful tool.
And so which of the various components of the SolarWinds solution have you been using?
There's, I think, several components, and please don't quote me on their traditional proper names.
Sure.
Certainly the configuration manager. Mm-hmm. It's nice to know if configurations or changes are being made to devices with or without your knowledge. So it's always good to have a point of rollback to know that a change can be undone. Yep. So that's a very helpful feature. And I believe, to be honest, I don't remember the names specifically, sure. But the UDT port monitoring is also a very, very handy feature of SolarWinds. It does allow you to track down by MAC address where a device is actually plugged in on a network, and that's certainly a feature that, for me, with very few feet on the ground, very helpful to track down rogue telephones or rogue laptops, devices. I mean, you're not able to prevent people from doing this, no. And at least if you can see what's happening, you can at least maybe join some dots as to what a cause of an incident may have been.
Sure, and then you're looking at this on a single pane of glass, as they call it, or on your phone or a tablet or a computer from wherever correct, you are, and you're monitoring the whole thing, and I'm sure it emails you if there's alarms going off or whatever it might be.
Absolutely. So one of the features I really enjoy is I call it tracking the tornado. Yep. Is that you can see the sequence of events as things fall over.
Sure.
What SolarWinds identifies as the order of sequence of damage, whether a particular router falls over, then you've got the domino effect of these switches are down, these printers are down, these servers are down, these microwaves and access points and all the equipment that is obviously piggybacked off that piece of infrastructure. You can see very quickly where the source of the problem was.
Sure. Well, I was going to say, and obviously, or presumably, before you had SolarWinds in place, a lot of these things had to be checked manually, and repair processes or things to get things back to normal would have taken a lot longer then than it does now.
Totally. It always fell back to speculative IT as to who was at fault, what was at fault, is there a fault?
Sure.
It may well have been a configuration change you don't know until you trawl the logs to go, there it was.
Yeah.
Who did that?
That's right. That's right. So have you discovered things that you can give SolarWinds feedback on so that they can make it easier for you in future versions of their products?
One of the attributes I find really helpful is certainly being able to, what they refer to as an SNMP walk of a device. Give me all the detail that device can actually report. And this is one of the use cases for us that actually made it very, very useful is we had numerous locations on our microwave uplink that we're experiencing battery discharge issues, we're experiencing issues with temperature and whatnot, and it was hard to speculate as to whether we had air conditioning issues, whether we had doors left open on the huts, whether there was a bushfire. We don't know unless we start to collect detail from many devices about what's actually going on.
Sure.
Because if I have one device that's reporting 80 or 90 degrees and one device reporting 24, I can be pretty confident it's a device issue, not an issue with the air conditioning.
Sure.
But if I have multiple devices in that particular complex reporting high temperatures, I'm pretty confident we've got an air conditioning fault. And then I look back and go, well, do we have a problem with the solar? Do we have a problem with charging? Do we have enough runtime? Has a breaker been tripped? And having the ability to SNMP trace through these devices to see actually, is there a problem or is there something bigger that we need to fly and fix?
Sure.
Can we tolerate this downtime or can we tolerate this particular issue? Is it weather related? Can we sustain it?
Sure. And there's obviously much richer data than you would get from a video feed, and a video feed which you might not be able to properly watch given the fact that, bandwidth is at such a premium.
Yeah, true, but videos don't tell you how hot it is.
That's right. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You've got much richer information than a simple video could provide. And in your case, it probably would be still images, a sequence of still images.
We never bothered putting in any video loop or any picture loop. It was really the rich information we could obtain from the devices we had in place. So use a combination of the routers, the switches, the inverters, the equipment that we had in the rack that we had an ability to SNMP, aggregate that detail together, and you can apply some logic to go, there's the problem, or it's actually not that big a deal. We can overcome this. I'm not going to stop the mine based on something that's getting hot that's actually not going to affect operation.
You can wait until the next time you fly up, for example. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So just sort of a question just about mining in general. I mean, how has technology changed mining beyond what we might read about in the papers? People have heard about autonomous vehicles on mine sites. I think there must be some form of robotic mining being used or developed. But what other technological advancements have you seen impact the mining industry for the better?
I think just in general, I mean, having the GPS feedback on the heavy vehicles, significant value in safety, significant value in efficiency on making sure vehicles aren't idle for too long. I think you can overcomplicate a solution by applying too much technology, but with the detail and technology we've already got, making efficient use of that today prepares us well for the next phase of mining equipment. There's always efficiencies to be had just by looking back at what you've done. So I think, with the technology in place, whether it be for pit wall monitoring, whether it be for weather-related detail, or whether it be just for raw fleet management, and certainly dovetailing into collecting detail off devices and sensors and bits and pieces. The IoT talk of what the future holds. We're prepared to make that leap to collect that data quite easily now. I mean, the technology is there. The saturation of bandwidth from a private LTE and private Wi-Fi that you might publish across a location makes things very easy now to keep connected. And certainly in a location like Woody, where the mine is located, having comms out there and driving that is really a big value add for us.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. Making full use of the technology you already own is probably the number one thing to do before gallivanting off to try and find some other robotic miner that will cost a bomb.
There'll always be a new bit of technology that takes your fancy, but we're still left addressing the legacy of technology that still works very effectively that we haven't yet fully utilised.
Yeah, excellent. So, look, just to turn corners a little bit, I always like to ask towards the end of the interview, as we are now here, as to what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received to help you get where you are today?
Best piece of advice I could ever be recommended was you walk past the standards you set.
Yeah.
And that be certainly from an infrastructure standpoint. If you see something that doesn't look right, if it's a sheared cable, if it's a fractured Cat5 lead, if it's a microwave not quite in the right direction, and you understand that shouldn't be like that, and you do nothing to resolve that, you're condoning that as acceptable, and you are creating a problem in that. Yeah. And I've always felt that as long as you make an effort to tell someone that either you would like to fix it or it should be fixed, or along that, you make so many other people's lives easier than sweeping it under the carpet and letting someone else trip over that. So I've always thought that if the opportunity is to correct something, please make that change.
Sure.
As IT teams become leaner and leaner, please think of the future of making people's lives easier. So
excellent advice. So I just want to finish off by saying, do you have any final messages for iTWire viewers and readers, and for your current, future customers, and anyone else who happens to be watching?
Make use of what you own.
Yeah.
You would be very surprised what technology and systems you are capable of delivering with what you already own.
Yeah.
And may SolarWinds expose detail you were unawares of your environment.
Sure.
And I think that for me has been my most enlightening experience with that kind of technology, that kind of software.
Sure. Well, look, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun in a sense, really maximising the potential of the technology you've got. So I wish you great success on that journey, and thank you very much for your time, Stacey.
No problems at all. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.